to travel 6 hours to see him in jail, and I wish that my grandmother wasn't sick, or that we would just come up on some stats and hit a lick, and I wish my homies wouldn't have to suffer when the streets get the upper hand on us and we lose a brother, and I wish I could go deep in the zone and lift the spirits of the world with the worlds within the zone, and I wish I could teach the soul to fly, take away the pain out your hands and help you hold them high, and I wish my homie Butch was still alive and know the day of his death we had never took their ride, and I wish that God could protect us from the road so that all the soldiers that were sent overseas come home, and we will never break, though they devastate. We shall motivate, and we gotta pray, all we gotta say, instead of thinking about who gon' die today.
Hello.
Hello, good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for joining. I already sent an invite to our other co-discusser. Thank you so much. It's good. We'll be having a very interesting topic today, and I'm happy we have you on board. Waiting for Dr. Bayonle to join us as well.
Okay. How's the weather over there?
It's getting better. We're almost in summer, full-blown summer, so
Almost.
there's no much cold anymore.
It's been
So we're really doing good. Yeah, yes, exactly. Everything is way better than the cold season now.
Yeah.
So.
Not looking forward to coming back.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm so sure the weather around there is way much better.
It's
always
really
sunshine.
hot, but I'm used to this weather.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not really showing on you that it's really hot though, because your skin would have changed by now. So I think it's as 9 already. Let's start with you. I already sent an invite to Dr. Bayonle as well, so he's supposed to join us too shortly. Can you give a brief introduction about yourself? Who was still the others, because we have some people already joining, and we don't want to keep our people waiting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll join in like 5 minutes. But for the people watching, my name is Assil Diab. I'm a street artist and graphic designer. Currently based in, I would say, the US. I moved there a year ago. But I'm in Qatar at the moment for the past 4 months. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Then let's go to this. We a lot of us, Africans in diaspora, we have quite a number of such challenges when it comes to not just dealing with ourselves, when it comes to dealing with so many issues with those that are in the home country and all that. So as a person, I know as you're an activist as well, can you say a little bit, or can you delve into this a little bit?
The challenges I faced as an activist?
Or let's start with this. Wait a little bit for Dr. Bayonle to join in. How did your journey lead to becoming an advocate and an ambassador?
Well, that's a long answer. I was born in Romania, and then I've lived in Qatar for most of my life. Studied and I just go back to Sudan for short visits. So living in the Middle East, you don't really get a choice of becoming a citizen, no matter how long you've actually lived here, which in my case, around 30 years. Um, Also, when I was born in Romania, I was not able to seek citizenship there because I was there. My dad was the ambassador of Sudan at the time, so you're there representing another country. So the option of obtaining citizenship as a passport is not even a choice. Um, so for most of my life, there was um, this um, loss of identity, I would say.
Mm.
Also having to study in the U.S. I know I'm Sudanese, but I haven't really lived there. And other than the short visits, I don't know much about it. Um, I did study for a year in Sudan, and I was very protected, just going to school back home. So I wouldn't really say I was um, interconnected with my community. Um, so then later on, after graduation, I took a BFA in graphic design from the US. Um, Again, for the next, I would say 7 years, 5 years, I would go back and forth to Sudan. And again, the same thing, I would either go back for a wedding or a funeral or just, short visits with the family. But I didn't really know much about Sudan. Um, when the revolution began in 2018, 2019, that was my first time participating in the protests in Sudan. And from there is where I think my actual journey of identity began. Um, I was really passionate about the issues that were brought up through these protests and online and talking to people. And at the time, I was also practicing street art, or when I began practicing doing graffiti and street art in general. So on my next visit to Sudan, I took a bunch of spray paint back home and just started practicing all over the walls in Khartoum. Um, I began with doing just, play on font, Arabic font and English font, um, with the basic graffiti props, and then later on developed into becoming actual uh, portraits of Sudanese celebrities and icons and people that I felt that contributed to the Sudanese community. That was my way of being introduced to Sudan and people who actually contributed to our society and people that I felt that didn't have a lot of light shed on them, whether on online or whether offline as well. There's so many people that I got to know of through conversations with my father or just other people in general during my visits in Sudan. One of them was, for example, Ashal Falatia, who is a Sudanese singer. Um, Falatia in Sudanese means of, I guess, Nigerian descent.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's used as, I don't want to say derogatory, in a derogatory manner, but it became so normal to say, and asking why that was a term that was used for her, um, even though she's born and raised in Sudan. It's always this tribalistic um, separation in our society. Um, and when I did my own research, I found out she was actually the first woman to appear on the radio.
Wow.
And a lot of people didn't know about that. So the reason I painted her because I wanted to kind of diffuse the whole Felatia thing and shed light on the actual contribution that she did. So عشا الفلاتية الطيب صالح محمد وردي محمد الفيتوري, who wrote most of the lyrics for most of the really famous Sudanese songs. Um, this was my way of shedding light on these icons. And um, because we have a lot of electricity cuts in Sudan and a lot of people are offline because of either the economic state, people don't have access to being online or just don't have phones in general or whatever. I wanted them to see these portraits and get to know these people and do their own research, just as I have been doing as a, someone who doesn't actually live in Sudan and doesn't really have that much knowledge of what's portrayed as success or just general contributions. And also because of our differences in our economic and religious backgrounds, most of these people that are painted, for example, Mahmoud Abdelaziz, he was also a Sudanese singer and he had a really large following. I would say someone like Bob Marley of Sudan. Um,
Oh,
that portrait, for example, was wiped out because the, I think Dr. just joined us.
yeah, Doctor. Welcome,
Hi,
Dr. Bayonle.
good morning.
Good morning. Join us a bit behind shadow. I was wondering what was going on.
I have a major clash. I'm supposed to be on a wedding train, but it's okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Hi,
Hi, nice to meet you.
good to meet you.
You said you had a
And thanks for
Yeah.
what?
did you
So
say
I'm out of my city. I'm in Kansas City as I speak. I'm supposed to be on the wedding train, and a whole lot of things is happening. So I'm like, okay, no, pause. I already have something booked out for 9 o'clock. It's also 1 hour behind. I'm on Central Time now. You know, Eastern Time is 1 hour behind. So
yeah.
it's just so many mess stuff. But my heart is here,
Yeah.
so I'm like, I have to be here.
Thank you
Yeah.
for
Sorry.
finally making it. So we already met Assil, and we're just trying to take us through how she became an ambassador and probably went into the line of activism and trying to support people, trying to support Africans. So that's where we are. We're going to move forward a little bit more, and I don't want to cut her short because she's saying something interesting about a female activist that is even Nigerian, of Nigerian descent, and was the first woman to be on radio, and some of the things that the woman went through and all that. She shared a little bit of our own experience too. But we are still in this, and I'm so sure as we progress, a lot of things are going to get more better and interesting.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about her too. I was sniffing around the internet and I was amazed about what she has gone through, what she has done with her graffiti, with her activism, and everything around that. So
Appreciate it.
I'm also here to learn and listen.
Do you want to do the introduction
So,
and then?
Okay.
yeah,
Uh, you want me to introduce myself? So my name
yes,
is Bayo.
exactly.
I try to call myself a part-time politician. Just I've been on the passive side of politics for a long time, but just last year decided to throw in my hat, run for office. I mean, mix it up a little bit. I feel that the political space don't have a lot of people like me, so uh, I I do some part of politics. Also, I'm a doctor, so I work at in Boston. I work mostly in the thoracic surgery space, doing a lot of research and all. So um, by day, a doctor, by night, politician, and everything in between. I also have a heart for young people, just because I feel that there's a huge population of young people out there, especially Africa, especially Nigeria, and I feel that they are the future, and they need to be uh, mentored. They need to be literally positioned, and I mean, it's if a country or a nation needs to grow, I think that they need to harness that energy of young people. So I also have an NGO. So my handle is DAB for Youth, DAB for Youth, just trying to help the young people in the community. So that's a little bit of me, if that suffices.
Okay. I want us to go to the very first major question, trying to talk about the experiences we have as Africans in diaspora. And I still mentioned something that it seems like it's general, when you grow up or when you find yourself on the spot or in an environment that's not where you are from naturally. The sentiments, sometimes the discrimination, sometimes how as a person, or can you share some of the experiences you have? Let's start with Dr. Bayonle because Assil mentioned a little bit, like talking about growing up or giving back to Romania.
You mean some of the experiences I've had
Yes,
in
yeah.
Nigeria or in
No,
the
yeah.
US?
Talking about it being in the US, like, we're not all originally from here.
Like some of the cultural shock, some stuff
Exactly.
like
Cultural shock.
that.
Some people use that language.
Well, I have a way of literally guiding my heart, my mind, my everything. So my story might not be very relatable to a lot of people, but of course, it does not mean I'm desensitized to what happens in the space. Uh, when I came in to study, and of course, it was different. I mean, starting with the educational system, of how things are done here compared to what I'm exposed to or used to back in Nigeria. How open-minded some people are, how naive some people are. There are literally conversations we have around. People don't even understand that uh, there's something called like you have to get a visa to come to the US, blah blah blah. They just feel you just wake up someday and just jump on the plane and everything. So it's always mind blowing when you see the extreme of okay, people that you feel that they should know better about. It's probably like immigration, know better about what is going on in other countries, and they just bring out or they just assume this very naive side of it. You're like, okay, there's a lot to do. There's also that part of people being um, sometimes genuinely concerned, also sometimes the hate side of it. I mean, everybody experiences that hateful part of people with resentment. It's like, who are you? Why do you think you can just come here and do A, B, C, D, or try to do something better, or think you deserve this? Um, but like I said, I try as much as possible to protect my space. I try as much as possible to um, make sure that be sensitive to what be sensitive in the way that whatever's going on, I try to receive more of the positive energy. So it's a different space, it's a different culture, it's a different area. But believe me, it's not really been terrible. Also because I've traveled a couple of times before finally settling in the US. It was a little bit easy on me, I would say. So it was not a very huge cultural shock, but I try to, when I see like a negative energy, I just bounce it back. If some examples or something jumps in my mind while we're talking, I'll probably just bring them forth.
Okay. So let me go to Assil. I know as a graffiti artist, you've done some wonderful paintings that can be interpreted, you know, sometimes you don't really have to delve into like asking the artist like, okay, what did you draw it? There's so many of them speak for itself when it comes to defending people, when it comes to activism, when it comes to trying to speak the mind of people or what people want. Um, in what area, or can you talk a little bit more about how you have used not just your 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 activism, or how you have used all of this to influence people or Africans in diaspora and even at home to stay glued to the cause of being able to stand up for ourselves, being able to say, oh no, this is what we want, this is what we're expecting, most especially from the government or wherever we find ourselves.
Well, to begin with, being a female doing art was a message within itself, especially back in Sudan. Um, you don't have a lot of females doing street professions such as construction or otherwise. Um, we have these tea ladies who make tea, and there's this tea and stuff like that. That's a profession, and I think that's about it. But we don't have a lot of um, public, like open street professions, such as street art. So the fact that I actually picked this up as not not just a hobby but an actual profession was um, yeah, something very taboo where I come from. Um, Standing in the streets would could have me face a law in the Sudanese Constitution, Law 152 or 25, I can't remember, that states any female that's not dressed appropriately or modestly could be subject to 40 lashes and imprisonment. So I took that risk every time I was painting. I'm not a hijabi, so I just made sure I'm not I'm just modestly covered. Long t-shirts, um, white pants and stuff like that. Um, Graffiti within itself, or street art within itself, is a very male-dominated art form, especially in the U.S. It it it's mostly considered as, or was considered as, vandalism, or it's males are physically more capable of running from the police should anything happen as well. Um, but now we see more and more murals and more commissioned artwork by specifically street art, whether in clothing or walls or you name it, really. Um, the subjects that I chose to paint were always raising um, questions, or raising, for example, Fat Mahmoud Ibrahim. I painted her in Bahri, in Hillat Hamad, Sudan. She is also a communist, and once I painted her, that was wiped out because a guy that was just driving by did not like communists. So he went and got some paint and wiped that painting out. Mahmoud Abdelaziz, like I was saying earlier, that painting was wiped out by a religious man that lived in the building, even though I took permission from the lady that owns the building, because he believes painting anything that has a soul is haram or forbidden in Islam. And I think also he just did not like, the fact that I was standing there and there's, a majority of male audience behind me watching me as I paint, you know what I mean? I think he just did not like the whole scene. So he gave himself the right to wipe out somebody's property. That's, as I said, graffiti is also considered as vandalism, but I always take permission from the homeowner or the wall owner. So again, I'm trying to break these stereotypes about what street art is. And that was a challenge within itself. It's not about the subject anymore, and it's not about how good the painting is. It's always a message within a message, from me as the artist and the subject of that's painted on the walls.
Okay. So, can we go to what are some of the cultural gaps, or what are some of the cultural bias that you noticed as a person, or let's say this way, or let's go to what strategies or method have you found most effective in bridging these gaps? You know, Dr. Bayonle, you mentioned something like, okay, you've traveled a couple of times, or Assil too has been around for a couple of times. So, what are some of the methods that you can suggest even to some people watching, apart from being professional about things or trying to be subtle around things? What are the methods that you feel that people can easily adapt to manage some of those situations?
Well, let's
Um,
start. Oh, sorry.
oh, sorry.
I don't know.
I don't know what she mentioned my name. I don't know. Who do you want?
Go ahead. Go
Who is that
ahead.
question?
Please go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
can doctor start?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, sorry, I jumped into it. I just thought she was.
No, I just didn't
She
hear
wanted me to talk.
the.
So for me, I just have a very open mind in terms of what people say and people's perception, and I think is a major. Um, it's very important when you want to pass a message across. Listening sometimes is a very important tool, and that has really helped. Uh, when people know that you're listening to them, when people know that you generally mean well, believe me, people who even have these very negative way of thinking or this stereotype, when they perceive that you are not coming from the side of hate or attack, uh, there's a tendency for them to listen, and there's a possibility of creating that atmosphere for everybody to learn. So I have had people ask me if I see lions on the street when I was back home in Nigeria, and I would just start with a smile and probably ask, "Have you ever been to a zoo before?" And I mean, gently walk my way into them, because I know in the back of my head that this person is just really
Ridiculous.
naive. Exactly. But I know some people might come from that angle of, why are you this stupid? Like is this like racism or something? But some people just lean in and say, "Oh, so tell me more about." Like, some people have asked me, how can you actually speak good English? Where did you learn it? And again, starting with a smile, starting with that opportunity to have an open conversation and say that, you know what, Nigeria was actually colonized by the British, and um, our lingua franca is English, and though we have like a lot of tribes, we have a native languages, went to school in English, studied, have all the stuffs in English. So, I mean, I take in information, try to create an environment where we can have an healthy discussion, no matter how ridiculous that question is. I'm also sensitive to the fact that people are from everywhere around the world, especially from where I've been and the people I've worked with in the past years. So there's a tendency for them not to just even know. I mean, I've been in an Uber where the Uber has not left. I lived in Boston, so the Uber driver has not left Boston in 40 years. So it was ridiculous. So I'm like, you probably not even been to New York before. So there's likelihood that you don't even know what's going on around you. So I just use every opportunity like as a teaching session, literally. And I think that's how I've been able to maneuver or manage my way or navigate the murky waters of the culture, and trying to just make sure people understand me better. And of course, when I see opportunity to learn to, I'm always open to asking questions. There were times where I felt that maybe asking questions might look ridiculous sometimes, because people look at you and be like, "Oh, you don't know this." So I try to observe, patiently observe, blow a lot of lines with smiles, and when I think it's necessary, ask relative questions. There are things and nuances that people assume that you know, or people assume that you should know, or people think that, oh, this is like stuff. Depending on the environment I find myself, I try to ask questions. I try to also target people, probably people that I know that are with the most open mind. I also mix with people a lot. Like I have best friends across different cultures, different countries, just to also broaden my understanding of how people live and I like to meet people from different countries. I like to meet people from different backgrounds. I try different type of food. I'm not only boxed in my Nigerian food alone. I'm actually open to all the types of food. The only one I found myself not really liking probably all the Mediterranean food, sushi and all the rest of
Are you
it.
serious?
I'm on
That's
that.
food.
So
Okay. So can we go to Assil now? Because it seems as though we are having different kind of experiences. So for you as a person, I know like you shared someone stopping and trying to erase the artwork you're doing on the wall and all that. And I know that apart from you trying to do the work of art, and you have so many other experience around so many other things. Can you suggest to us methods and strategies, or probably how you can advise that we manage situations, most especially when it comes to dealing with people or dealing with those around us in diaspora?
I'm gonna start with the challenges. I think is the history of African migration. I think is different from any other migration. I think because we all came as, or are known as our history as being slaves. Um, I think people treat us differently, also according to um, race and which country you come from in Africa. Egypt, how Egyptians are treated are very different from how Sudanese are, for example, just because even though we're one country, lighter skin, darker skin, and I personally face this issue. Moving to the U.S., I can't really classify myself. I mean, I do, but I feel like sometimes I feel inferior to the Africans from the east or the west, because of I guess my skin color is lighter. So they're all like they treat me different because I look different, even though I feel this is you know
the funny thing is that people don't know that they are light-skinned people from Africa.
exactly. So in the
Yeah.
they're always like, are you Latino? Are you Moroccan? Whatever it is. So it's really annoying to keep explaining myself, my background, and where I come from, and my really strong African Sudanese blood, and just that's why I chose the name. My street name is Suda Love, because it's an excuse for me to talk about Sudan every time. Not that I needed to, because I'm always asked, but it's just taking my identity with me everywhere that I go, just because I don't really live in Sudan. And I feel like when I moved to the U.S., especially, I feel like most of the African leaders have studied in the U.S. or the U.K. Um, and in order for us to support our economic development, um, we should be open to either debates or panel discussions with other cultures and all this um, um, interconnection with the community, whether it's in the U.S. or back home in Africa, with other Africans, with Algeria, with Morocco, all the lighter skin, darker skin, whatever it is. I think there's a huge gap in our economic states, our religious backgrounds, and even the languages that we speak. And also in Sudan, I think there's a huge difference between our tribes as well. So it's all because of our strong, our hard-headed ways of sticking to just that one tribe and just that one religion is why we as Africans have those differences in the first place. And when I moved to the U.S., I made it a point to join the African Student Union in school, and um, join as many debates, like I said, panel discussions, whatever it is, to get a chance to connect with these other Africans and connect through our similarities, other than, if anything else. I think these are ways we can come together as African diaspora.
Thank you very much. When you were talking, something occurred to me. Like it was more like you said something, and I would really like first to talk. You mentioned about our leaders traveling to so many places. Do we think our leaders are even doing enough? Because we have so many leaders that traveled abroad. They came to study, and they've seen the way things are done here. They've seen how so many things are handled. Do you think they're creating um, the better platform for us to, as as Africans in diaspora, to be able to blend in well? Do you think they do the negotiation well, or they portray us well, or they just throw us under the bus? Sorry to use that word.
Well, they throw us under the bus. That is the
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Like, when people say they throw us under, it's like they just leave us to our fate, like, or make it worse for us. Like, they come here to study, they come here to do all of those things. And do you feel they are doing enough talking and helping us, like those of us that are in diaspora, to get better treatment? You understand what I'm trying to say? Do you think they are doing enough of it?
Um, if they weren't doing enough, I don't think most of us would seek asylum in other countries, which is the case for most of us. I'm one of those. I'm currently seeking political asylum in the U.S. After all that I've done for Sudan and for the revolution, and now with what's going on in Sudan, I can't. I would say going back home is not an option at the moment. Um, there's no airport, there's no hospitals, there's nothing. Everybody has left. Um, and I think these leaders, they do these negotiations, and for some reason, there's always some sort of corruption. It's all just a show most of the time. I don't understand why nothing's actually being done. It's, when you watch the news, it's just war after war, destruction after destruction, and we're going in sequence in Arab countries and then Africa, and it's just going. Um, it's an ongoing war, and I feel like a lot of these leaders go and they adapt to other cultures and other countries instead of actually um, fixing the problems that we have back home. For most of our leaders, at least.
Oh, so you saying that was sympathize so much with our African brothers and sisters in Sudan going through all of this at the moment. Dr. Bayonle, I know there was a little bit of concern talking about the Sudan thing. As a matter of fact, initially I thought this was not going to be possible with Assil because of what was going on with Sudan, but thankfully she responded and was able to be part of this. Dr. Bayonle, do you want to? You can mention something around the Sudan thing. Do you want to say something about this?
I was actually looking forward to talking to her, speaking about and having conversations around the Sudan conflict at this point, because, like I said, I always like to know first-hand information, especially from people who are on ground, who have families, who have relatives, who all these issues are directly affecting. Because, I mean, we read so many things on the internet, we read so many stuff on tabloid, and those things shape our thoughts about what's going on. It's different from somebody who is directly on ground. And I mean, I know I mentioned this to you, and we're trying to be like, okay, it depends on how comfortable, because I mean, I feel that what's happening in Sudan, it's a sad one, and it's just every country in Africa is just almost like um, an inch away of feeling this madness of bad leadership that we have. It could be another country any day, and it's always good for us to have this conversation and sensitize each other, and be sensitive to some of these signs, because one common theme that we have as African is, I think we're all victims of bad leadership. We all have, in one way, uh, been affected by these bad leaders. And I hope that we have a rallying point where we can all come together as one, as Africans, and say, this is how, though I'm Sudanese and Nigerian, Nigeria just went through an election, a very rocky election. We still have so many issues in court right now. And one of the things that people are saying is that we have to be careful. The Africa as a country right now is very fragile. We shouldn't tilt ourselves into war. Making examples of things happening in Sudan. I can imagine what's happening in Sudan right now without like the healthcare she mentioned, without basic amenities. See how difficult it was even for Nigeria to get people out of Sudan. It was hell. And I can imagine the number of internally displaced people that will cause, even the burden on other countries. I can imagine what's going on even in the southern Sudan. It's crazy. And I mean, I'm always open to the opportunity to have very decent conversations as Africans around that. And I mean, just rehash these problem of bad leadership, and of course, find the way forward.
I have MC more saying like we should just forget about these leaders and like it's sounding more like they're not going to do anything. They're saying they're going to hand over powers to the youngsters. They are not going to do that. That most of the chaotic conditions in African nations are instigated by the Western world and the European world and all that. You know, we have all of this. Do you think this is really adding a lot to most of the things that are happening to the Africans in diaspora as well? You know, a lot of us are saying, oh, some are even currently saying now everybody wants to leave, everybody wants to move. Do you feel what we left behind or is still affecting our lives? Can I still say something about this?
100%, 100%. We all still have families back home at different points. If it's not our immediate families, our great grandparents, our cousins, our nieces, I don't think families just uproot all their lineage and move to diaspora. It's almost impossible to do that. Aside that, you have loved ones, you have friends, you have very close people that you probably had childhood with, and etc. Back home. So it's not you can't numb yourself and say because you are out of the country, you are not still impacted, or you don't still feel the heat coming back from home. Also, understand that I always say the world is flat now. People outside the country, in the UK, in the US, are also on the news reading what's going on, and they are using. I feel that sometimes they use that opportunity to even I'm trying to use the best word here, they take advantage of some of these opportunities, I would say. I mean, a lot of people are fleeing war, a lot of people are fleeing instability, and some of these Western countries know that, though they might even be the one that caused it in the first place, but I think there's a part of it that they also take advantage of. People will do anything to get by. People will go into any type of labor or workforce to just put food on their table. And that's a whole economy on its own, trying to build some countries based on people who do under the table job, people who just want to do anything to make their life comfortable. So it's definitely, I can't change the way I look. I can't change my accent. It's not possible. I can't change my history. I can't change so many things about me. So when you see me, you know who I am. And whatever you know, it's not only what I tell you. Whatever you know, or the way you perceive me is also an accumulation or accumulation of the stories you've had, the what you've read, and etc. So 100%, it affects us, and I hope that. I mean, I think we just can. I don't think we can even rely on these leaders anymore. We just have to
Mm,
find a way to bond and
okay.
tell our own stories and say this is who we are and move ahead.
Okay, I want to go to Assil now. Because because really for I said I know you're really doing a whole lot when it comes to not just not just fighting for Sudanese, fighting for Africans, and trying to probably lend a voice to whichever uh, person comes your way and all that. Do you think the foreign or probably let me use the word, the westernized word, they are doing enough in terms of protecting, most especially you as a person, you're a woman. Do you think the Western world is doing enough to protect some of us that are trying to do this?
The answer is no. And from a personal point of view, the reason why I went to the US in the first place was to receive it's called the 10 Under 10 Award, for top 10 alumni of the university that I studied in 11 years ago, Virginia Conklin University. And the only reason I received that award was based on the work that I did in Sudan.
Mm,
It's not based on my degree that I took from that university, which was in graphic design, but it's from street art, which I learned by myself and with the help of the infamous El Cid, and practicing in Sudan, and then later um, going to Sudan and living there for a certain period of time during the revolution on my own, leaving my family and my siblings and everybody, my friends back here. And I guess again, the reason why I did that, I've already elaborated on, was to have this connection with my identity. And I felt that I have this thing in my hand, which is not very popular back home and wasn't used. And I think with evolution comes the visual aspect. And I felt like the perfect um, thing to for this revolution was to fill these walls with um, portraits, words, chants, whatever it is that I can um, uh, do at the time. Um, but now I have to again think about staying in the U.S. for after applying for the political asylum. I have to think about staying another 5 years in the U.S. again, leaving my family, my friends, and my home, and everything that I know at this age, just to seek a citizenship, just so I can stay safe, so that later on, should I decide if there is a Sudan in the next 5 years, and should I decide to go back home, I have somewhere, an embassy or somewhere I can go to and just try to seek some sort of help, versus just being Sudanese, and being shot by RSF or whoever it is back home, not really seeking any medical help or humanitarian help for that case. And now being here in Doha, I am really thinking about whether I actually risk it and go back to the U.S. and do those 5 years, staying away from home again for the next 5 years. I'm going to be close to 40 then. Then most of my life there's this identity crisis, just so I can start living at 40 or gaining seeking medical help or whatever it is. Beyond that, that's at that age, I should just be settled, being, safe and having a family, not running away most of my life from either in Sudan or going back to the US. And I don't feel like that's something I should seek. I feel like that's something that should honestly be presented to people like us, especially people and the youth that have made a change back home or have been really obviously very active. I mean, as I'm sitting here right now, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but as I'm sitting here right now, there's, the Martyrs Graffiti Project became the project of the revolution. So now every time there's a martyr shot, it inspired other people and other youth to start painting and memorializing these martyrs of the revolution and bringing them to attention, because our media doesn't do that for us. It's the youth who are doing that online and on the streets for people that have access to the internet or not. Even if there's internet cuts, for example, when there was the hashtag Blue for Sudan, everybody was changing their profile picture to blue. But for 2 weeks, even though I know Muhammad Matar, the martyr who inspired the hashtag, I know him personally, I had no idea he was dead until because of the internet cut downs and, in the electricity, there was no electricity and no access to the internet. Until 2 weeks later, I went to my cousin's house, and then was able to access my Instagram and then just found out. So I saw that everybody was changing the profile picture to blue. However, how about the people that are offline that have no idea what's going on? So I went and got this big bucket of the same color blue and painted everything blue. The streets, the light poles, the whatever it is, it was blue. And that way, I was speaking to people in the streets and about what's going on. And it forced these dialogues and it forced these conversations between us, especially people of the older age who don't have social media or whatever. As a youth, as somebody from the youth, I wanted to have these conversations with people that I don't know in the streets, so we can talk about these things and try to find solutions together in the ground, being in the streets.
Do you think diving into this? Do you think that Africans in diaspora? Because if we look at it now, we have a lot of Africans in powerful places and powerful offices, organizations, and all that in all those developed countries, most especially in the US and the UK and Europe. Do you think we are helping ourselves enough?
Is the question for me?
Yeah, let's start with let me start with you, then go to doctor. Do you think we're helping ourselves enough? Because we have people in all of these offices. We have a lot of Africans that some you won't even know they're Africans. Some not until you see their names. Some not until you see them on the screen. I mean, that was part of what brought up my idea of doing this, because they don't know that so many of us do things, so many of us do a lot of good things and contribute immensely to the development of the developed world. So do you think we are not helping ourselves enough as Africans in diaspora? Like, a lot of people have challenges. There are so many ways we can step in. There's so many, it doesn't really have to be, I don't know if you get my point. Some majorly just feel like, oh, I don't want to. Do you think we're really helping ourselves enough? Or do you think some of us that are trying to talk about this thing, do you think we're doing enough, the awareness, trying to change or probably encourage people to help more? Or, I don't know if you get my question.
I do get your question. Africans struggle, and I think with struggle comes determination. I think many of us, when we leave, we become very successful and we're able to achieve great things. I think we've seen that in the entertainment industry. politics, academia. Um, in Sudan, for example, this revolution in 2018 began by the youth. This is us doing what we can with what we can. You know, we all came together, we started this revolution until we ousted the dictator of 30 years, Omar al-Bashir. We did that, not, not my father's generation. We did that as, you know, the next generation. I think there's so many distractions now for us, whether it be drugs or social media or otherwise. I think they're putting on purpose a lot of distractions for us to not be aware of what's going on. But we also know that. So those of us who know that and really are yearning for change, we seek each other out, and we use these platforms, social media or otherwise, to come together and try to find solutions, whether through, if we're talking about social media, whether through hashtags or creating imagery as artists online or in the streets. We are trying to do what we can, because we also gave up hope on our leaders, in sometimes religion. I feel a lot of people are doubting things that they were taught when they were younger, and they're also seeking the truth, whether it's politics or religion or otherwise, you know.
Doctor, what do you have to say about this?
We're definitely not doing enough. I feel that Africans get to US, for instance, and number one priority is run as far away from each other as we can, just to avoid each other. I feel it's more like a breather. Like we get into like the Western world and we're like, oh, I don't even want to care about you right now. I want to care about me. And everybody's just in their different clusters trying to navigate the murky waters by themselves. I don't think we have that rallying point, and we've not even created that rallying point for ourselves, to harness the force, to harness the numbers that we have, the productivity that we have. I don't think we've been able to economically even come together, to say, yes, this is what we bring to the table outside of the country, and we can either use it to make a point, a strong point for ourselves or for our presence in diaspora. I feel that we're still a little bit weary of each other, and it's really strange. I've seen different other cultures. I see Indians. Wherever you see Indians, you probably see like 50 or 100 behind them. I see Chinese people. I see. I don't think there's a city you get to you don't have like Chinatown. I see other like nationals really come together, and not just come together for just the need to come together, but economically even come together and make a strong point about how productive they are and what they bring to the table in these countries, and how much they matter. Not just look at them as a workforce, but also even help each other. I don't think we're there yet as Africans, and we have the numbers. I think we even have the people at different institutions, different walks of life doing greatly. Just recently, I found out that one of the big guys in the company I work is actually Nigerian, and I didn't know. I didn't know. And he's like one of the like directors of a huge program there, and I'm like, oh, he's Nigerian? I did not even know. And so people are trying in different pockets. I think some people come together, do some stuff together, but it's not. I don't think we've hit that threshold of forming a very viable and very productive cluster. I don't think we're doing enough. I feel everybody's just still busy running away from each other, doing whatever they want to do. I hope we get to that point that we can all come together as a continent and say, okay, this is us. We're Africans. We're Black people. This is what we bring to the table. This is how much we've been able to influence the culture here, the diversity here, the productivity here, and because of that, we can either look inwards to help each other or also demand more on the table, and that's what I think. So I don't think we're doing that much, and I hope that we get to the point that we can all form closest. I was going to ask her a question about the media, for instance. I do not even think that Sudan is getting the publicity they deserve for this war. I think the conversation has even moved on so quickly compared to like the Ukraine war, compared to like some other wars, and there's really huge humanitarian crisis going on in Sudan. But sincerely, I go around the internet. You know, I'm mostly on the internet doing stuff, but I don't even hear that much about the war going on. And I don't know if we have to take that responsibility on ourselves and be like, you know what, if nobody's going to shout on our behalf, we have to shout for each other. Or I don't even know. Right now, I'm like asking her, what do you think is the best way to bring attention to this type of crisis?
Again, it comes back to the racism thing, right?
Yeah.
If this was,
I think let me just put this so that I still can talk more about it. We started with how we can all come together and probably help ourselves. So just like Doctor just asked now, how do you think other African countries, when we have a lot of, because I know coming together, we're going to do a lot more. Just like you mentioned, it doesn't look as though the media it doesn't look like the media is doing enough, most especially when it comes to African countries getting involved, having crises and all that. What do you think, or what areas do you think, or how do you think we can help ourselves more or better? Assil.
By posting, by talking, by sending, see Jazeera and them, they have these phone numbers that you can send videos and your comments and stuff. But again, I don't trust these options also, because the media will portray what they want to visualize or put on the media. So again, there's only so much we can do by using our own platforms and coming together. If you can protest. If you can come up with some sort of project or campaign or hashtag.
Or like hashtags, exactly.
I think that's, the internet is all we can use right now, because there's a lot of silence to speech. And I think other countries, I recently just came from Cairo last night, and as soon as I got in the Uber from the airport, the Uber driver heard me speaking Sudanese, and then he was like, "When'd you come from Sudan?" And I didn't mention that I don't live in Sudan. I said last week, and he's like, "Well, you guys killed one of our generals, and if your country doesn't have a law, Egypt does, you know." And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? He wasn't very sympathetic. And again comes this, I guess because I know it, and it's hard to say if I'm okay with it, but it's something that you're used to. You're not going to seek sympathy from even close by countries. Again, even though Egypt and Sudan were one country, I'm not saying this is the majority, but a lot of people are like that. He said, if you guys want to kill each other, that's up to you, but don't take our army and think you can do whatever you want to do, because we can simply say, we can simply ask you all to leave. You know what I mean? Even though most Sudanese people go to Egypt for their weddings, for their funerals, they all have property there. They all have their own apartments. So even when they left and got into Egypt, everyone had their own place to stay. But they're not going to see it that way as us investing in her economy. They're just going to see it as us being seeking asylum in Egypt, even though, I mean, the helping hand should just should be given without, being asked. Sorry, I went away from the question.
No, you're fine. We're still going. We're still doing good.
That, that was really helpful, sincerely. I feel that we don't empathize enough with each other. It's
Yeah.
like we're fighting each other for some, I don't know, imaginary, some mindset that we have. I don't know how hard it is to accommodate each other, but again, I feel that's also the purpose of some of these conversations, to bring attention to the fact that we need to do better. We have to understand that there are situations that everybody wants to be in their own homes, in their own communities, in their own space. Nobody desires to just like pack up one day and go start a new life. Maybe not everybody, but when this situation happens, the best thing we can do to each other is to empathize and actually open that hand of community, or of empathy, or of help, and say, what can I do? I think that should be the first conversation, or the first question, actually, that what can I do? Not that you need to go back to where you're from, or we don't want your chaos. And let me throw this out. You see, I think the Western world, they have a template. They're more about their economic prosperity. So we should not 100% be looking out for them helping us that much. I feel that they also have a template for like immigrants, for everybody that, I mean, when you come here, the first thing you want to do is even find a way to like get by, have some money. You go into the templates they have set for you. And that template does not encourage us coming together, a communal kind of like relationship. It's everybody trying to run around, trying to get handmade, trying to mind their business, trying to get a visa, trying to get a residency, all kind of things. And before you know it, it's 10 years. Before you know it, you have your own family. Before you know it, you have your own responsibility, and go on that track. So they've set a template that does not encourage this togetherness. And I feel that as Africans, the only way, or maybe the best way we can even help ourselves, is to open that hand of friendship, of open-mindedness, and be like, what can we do to help ourselves? How can I help you when I see you? What can I do to be of help?
Okay. Thank you so much, Assil. Thank you so much, Dr. Bayonle. Now we are trying to round up. I see this, that there's a comment that we have here. It's like competition. Like we seem more to compete with ourselves as Africans in diaspora rather than coming together. We seem to take capitalism too far. We trade community for individualism. So many times we forget how we're brought up. So many times we forget where we're coming from, the way we all do things together, the way we all help ourselves. So many times we forget that. And we should, it's high time we went back to the way we handle things, the way we help ourselves as we have it in times past. So now, I know you have a lot of work, Assil. How do we assess your work? I'm still going to throw the same question to Dr. Bayonle, because I know aside from him being a doctor, that he has a foundation too as well. Then, Assil, how do you feel we can help more? Just like Dr. Bayonle mentioned, I know we have the hashtags. We've mentioned about the social media. Are there other ways that as Africans we should help? Just rounding off, we can help ourselves to make things better to 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 make our voice heard, to make it, we don't, sometimes so many of us don't realize that if we come together, there's power and strength in unity. If we come together more, agitations around certain things, requests around certain things, it will make it a lot easier. So do you have things to say around this particular way? I mean, I just want everything to be said all together in one, so that I won't have to ask questions again. And I know quite a number of people are asking questions, but the ones I see, I'm trying to wrap it into the things I'm saying
Okay.
at the same time. Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna answer this, and then I unfortunately have to go. Um, but most of the people that reached out to me through social media were foreigners asking, first of all, if I was okay, empathy, and then asking what they can do to help, and even contributing financially. Even though at the time there wasn't any link online, some people went ahead and created their own funding campaigns to help support the people of Sudan, especially those who were displaced in nearby countries. That's, I think, that's, to sum it up in a nutshell, how we can actually help is to, we don't have a problem of connecting with each other. There's social media and phone numbers, and any way we can to get to one another, it's very possible, it's very easy. So my advice is to just keep supporting each other, reaching out to people, taking action on yourself, not just sharing and then that's it, to actually actively help out people. If you're in a place where there's a lot of people that need help, go and see them, visit them, and support them either emotionally or financially. Both are equally good. Um, Support local artists, support musicians, etc. I think all in all, cultural diversity can help your personal growth and also help you evolve as a person. When we were doing the Martyrs Graffiti Project, for example, a lot of these portraits of the martyrs were painted in the exterior wall of the martyrs' homes. So they automatically became landmarks in our streets and in our environment. So a lot of people, when they pass by a martyr's home, knew that this is uh, uh, one of the martyrs, and they would stop and visit the families and provide emotional and also financial support. So um, this wasn't intentional, it was just an idea. We came together as a group of volunteers in one car and a bunch of spray paint, and just went around town to paint portraits, but it created this ripple effect of other artists emerging and other graffiti projects emerging and other visual aspects um, being attached to the revolution. And I think that's how ideas start. Oh,
Hello?
yeah. I just heard.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Bayonle, what can you say about this? I mean, we're wrapping up.
I think she has a lot of echo.
Can you hear that?
I don't know where that is coming from. Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of feedback, and I think it's from you.
From me? No.
Maybe you should mute yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is probably better now. I think she has mentioned great ways where we can continue to foster this communal relationship among ourselves, genuinely care, understand that we are not in competition with each other. I mean, I think that's That's something that we should understand. That it's not, life is not about always trying to be the better person. You have to. The, it's good to do well as a community. It is the best to grow up together as a community as than being okay. I'm the only one successful in this area or something. And I think that's even one of the foundation of, or that's one of the great attributes of Africans, that they know us as community people. That's how we kind of like sell ourselves. That's how we are always like, okay, we come from these very robust backgrounds of family, of community, etc. So I think that we need to try and do more, help each other wherever we find ourselves, have an open mind to each other. You're Egyptian, you're Sudanese, you're Tanzania, you're Nigerian. They're all just just creation of the colonial masters. I think Africa is flat. I think we're just one continent divided into different partitions by people who want to economically benefit from us. So I think we need to continue conversations like this, have an open mind with each other, uh, start from that place of how can I help every time you see somebody, either in need or even not in need, and say, how are you? Be genuinely concerned. Throw out words that show that I am in solidarity with whatever is going on with you. Believe me, everybody, we all have our own issues, common issues as either black people or Africans all across. So nobody should try and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing better than this other person, or I'm trying to do like, be genuinely concerned, be genuinely there to want to help. Um, and I mean, don't just throw out bigoted or words that that are not well thought of. Sincerely, people say all kind of things that just shows how shallow-minded they are about different things. So I think this is a conversation starter, and thank you so much, Event for bringing this type of conversations. So I think
Thank
it's
you,
good.
thank you. Oh, I want to say this. I appreciate the two of you for joining us today. And it's a great privilege to have you both talk about most of these things, most of these issues. One thing I know is we always have people reach out. We always have people view this, even after the discussion has gone live, and we always have people ask questions. And I must say this, I don't want us to stop, because I know Assil is doing a lot. I know Dr. Bayonle too is doing a lot. And I'm trying my best to do the little I can in my little way. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of this. God bless. And you can always reach out if there's a way that we can help. You can send messages and all that. Thank you a lot once again. God bless, and we're saying bye-bye. And I want to appreciate everybody that joined, either by popping in, by sending messages, by sending questions, by being part of this. We don't take any of this, we don't take any of them for granted. We're saying we appreciate you a lot. Thank you for being part of Event and Crew. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for sending messages. We appreciate. We want to say God bless.
I'm going to go on my Twitter and put something an hashtag about Sudan, just to
Okay.
take this conversation forward.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for that. Assil, if you have anything like that too, just let us know. We can push. We can find a way to push it out. Even not just on this platform. We can use other platform as well that we all have, just to find a better way to help around these things that we're talking about that we all discussed today.
Um, I'm I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering if you know, report and people watching on YouTube.
Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you clearly.
Was this recorded and people later on watch it on YouTube?
Yes, yes, we're gonna work on that.
Perfect.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. God
Thank you.
bless. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye.